Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a very long time since I've posted an update on my channel, and I'll talk more about that later. This is day 201 of growing red Caribbean papaya trees from seeds, and it's day 201 because it's actually 68 days lagging behind the original series, so there's no point in keeping that little backup seedling that shares a pot that has no drainage with the seedlings that are also backups for that other series, the jackfruit. So the seedlings here are developing really well, these red Caribbean papaya seedlings. And you can see the seed husks are still there on the sand, and the leaves look pretty healthy. It's growing really dense, but if the lemon series has showed us anything, it's that it doesn't really matter if they're growing right next to each other. Eventually, one or two will dominate, as we're seeing here, and the others will be stunted and just kind of sit there as backups. I think there might be some advantages to keeping the small ones around, namely that the smaller plants and just having so many plants in this one pot in general will help to soak up some of the water, so there'll never be any case of overwatering, as would be the case if I just had a tiny seedling sitting in a sea of sand by itself. So I'm not actually watering all that much anymore, like I used to. And if you've watched several of the other plant updates from the other series, you'll know what I'm talking about. I used to drench it a lot, and then do fertilizer, and wash off the fertilizer by pouring in sometimes even gallons of water and letting it all drain out. So yeah, this was taken a few days later, and you can see there's a bit of yellowing for those small leaves, but that's not at all uncommon. There are some leaf defects, I think, creeping into play here, and that's never a good sign. I've had plants where nothing really went wrong, like the original cotyledons and starter leaves would just hang on there and be green like virtually for a year, and that doesn't seem to be the case here. So the reason I'm thinking they're yellowing is because there's insufficient nutrients left over from projects past where I did use a lot of Miracle-Gro powder and crushed vitamin pills to fertilize the soil, or rather the sand in this case. It's virtually 90 to 100% sand at this point, since I've mixed this stuff over and over with new bags of sand and used it for many growing series. So the foliage overall looks pretty impressive, especially since this balcony reached a point at which it stopped receiving direct sunlight during the day. So basically, if you follow my YouTube channel for a while, you'll have heard me talk about in 2020 all the way until 2021 about how I live in an apartment that has no direct sunlight from, I believe, mid April all the way until late August. So the orientation of the balcony is horrible for plant growing. And here's another view of all these seedlings. So it is true that two are appearing to be very dominant, but the others aren't doing bad as well. So I have limited space. I'm not going to do a transplant and get these in some other pot as backups. I'm figuring the worst case scenario is they'll just enter a state of stasis if there's no room or resources for them to continue to grow in. They'll just stay stunted while the two big ones become really big. So it's day 252. I moved to a new apartment that has morning sunlight, and it lasts some time until slightly after noon. So maybe 1 or 2 p.m. I believe. So that's pretty good. There is some sunlight in the wee hours in the morning, but it goes from being a very acute angle until it's maybe 9 or 10, I believe, and then it's like full-on direct sunlight. So I only need a few hours a day to maintain a good plant growing channel. It's not that I didn't have series going on when I was at that previous place with no sun for 4 months out of the year, but this place is just way better. The balcony is much deeper and wider, and there's no wall blocking, just a rail, so that lets in additional sunlight. There's little black-headed birds that come here and feed on the detritus on the ground, maybe seeds or berries or whatever falls from these trees. And there seems to be a lot of other bugs and wildlife coming in as well, so I'll have to watch out for that. So it's day 262. After many weeks of meager watering, I had a grueling move and other things to attend to, so I just watered by the bare minimum. You can see some leaves, some of the early ones have curled up, dried up, and died. So overall, this is not doing too bad. It does seem like there is a bit of leaf yellowing. You can see a spot right here on a leaf that shouldn't be yellowing. And I'm not saying that if you were to walk into a real forest, you wouldn't see something that looks exactly like this, but I'm starting to worry that there's a nutrient deficiency, and I'm going to have to address that. And I noticed that big snails keep migrating to my pots. I think they're looking for minerals, because I looked up on Google what do snails eat, just to confirm that they do eat plants. And I'm not sure if they're really restricted to any species, so I'm really worried that they're going to climb onto my plants and just destroy them. So I threw it away. Lo and behold, they kept coming back anyways. It's probably not the same one, of course. But yeah, there's this species of, I wouldn't say giant snail, but they're pretty big in my estimation. So I'm putting on some Miracle Grow powder, and there's actually a little bit of crushed 1-a-day men's vitamins in there. So what that mostly does is it provides for the micronutrients that a plant needs, in addition to the macronutrients. So the fertilizer covers a lot of things, and the vitamin pill dust covers what the fertilizer doesn't. So it's theoretically complete nutrition on paper for a plant. And I think that might actually be the reason why snails keep coming over, because they tend to just stay within the pot itself, not climb onto the plants and start eating them. I've seen no signs of snail eating damage on any of my plants yet. Not that I know what that looks like, because I've never lived on the ground floor with an exposed balcony like this until now. So I'm sure there'll be many new challenges, but just the fact that I'm getting a natural amount of sunlight for my plants, that'll make a huge difference, I believe. I'm yet to move to a place that offers me full sun, but I believe this is the next best thing. So that's it for my latest update. Please stay tuned.